This is Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Erha. Let's jump right into it. Chapter 156, Shizun, Good Riding Skills. Chuaning looked her up and down. Even back at Xuanyuan Pavilion, he'd already thought this woman devastatingly beautiful. Now, upon a closer look, it was clear she was a stunning beauty of the mortal realm. She was as lovely as Lotus surfacing the waters, as gorgeous as the radiant dawn. Her lustrous silky hair was as black as ebony and could almost brighten her surroundings. No wonder Nan Gongzi would like her. With this thought, he unconsciously stole a glimpse at Moran, wanting to know what Moran's reaction would be towards her. Yet, unexpectedly, when his gaze moved, it met squarely with Moran's. Moran wasn't looking at Song Chutong at all. It was like there was only air standing next to Nan Gongzi. Instead, he was staring at him, and when their eyes met, Moran gave a gentle smile. Chuaning felt himself turn weak at his gaze, yet he still had to fake composure, so he stared back at Moran for a moment before turning his eyes away, seemingly unaffected. There are many Fey wolves kept here at Xiaoyue track field, but the doughiest one is Nao Bai Jin, and I like him best too. The dowdiest? The dowdiest one. Nan Gongzi led the party to the center of the vast field, then took out the jade flute hung at his waist and blew 3 sharp notes. After a moment of silence, demonic winds billowed within the woods in the distance, and a flash of snow-white silhouette as fast as the winds and lightning charged out of the trees. In practically the blink of an eye, a Fey wolf with glistening fur and gleaming claws pranced into the air, its form pulling into one smooth arc as it let out a long howl. The chilling winter day shone behind its back as it landed steadily and stood before Nan Gongzi. Arf! Arf! Nan Gongzi went over and stroked its mane, then turned his head back with a smile. Zhongshe, look at him, he's so big now. The year you left, he was still a little pup. The year I left, he was already the height of a grown man. Chuaning replied expressionlessly. Ha ha ha, really? I always think he's small, a baby. ... Zhongshe, come and try riding him. Nan Gongzi blew the flute again, summoning 2 more completely snow-white Fey wolves from the woods. Mo Zhongshe, wanna come play too? The 3 mounted the backs of their respective Fey wolves, and Nan Gongzi instructed, grip the veins or the scruff and squeeze your legs. It's actually not too different from riding horses. Then he leaned down towards Song Chutong. Chutong, you'll ride with me. I'll take you. Chuaning thought he didn't know how to ride at first, but after he mounted the back of the Fey wolf and tried walking a few steps, he didn't think it was anything difficult. In fact, since Fey wolves were highly intelligent, they could understand perfectly what their riders wanted, so it was even easier to ride them than normal horses. Nan Gongzi grinned. How about it? Let's run a lap? Are we allowed to go wherever? Sure! The forests of the back mountain and Xiaoyue track field are free for us to roam. Moran grinned too. Are we racing? Let's do it. Chuaning stole a glance at Nan Gongzi and who had brought Song Chutong along to ride on the same Fey wolf, and thought this was an opportunity for the married couple to build their relationship, so he happily agreed. Nan Gongzi untied a bracelet made of spiritual stones from his wrist with a smile. In that case, let's run to Lake Ganchuan, located on the north side of the forest, and catch 5 groupers each. The first to return here will be the winner. This bracelet will be the prize. How's that? The 7-star spiritual stone bracelet. Is it Nan Gongzi being a little too ostentatious? 1,000 gold cannot so easily buy my joy. Nan Gongzi tightened his hold on the reins and bowed his head to Song Chutong again. Sit tight and don't fall. Let me know if we're going too fast. Moran glanced at Song Chutong and smiled. It seems Nan Gongzi can take out the bracelet already. Ha, underestimating me, are you? I grew up on the back of wolves. Never mind taking a person with me. It'd be nothing to add another one even. Let's go. On my countdown of 3, we'll start. 3, 2, 1. The word had only just dropped, and 3 snow-white flashes pierced through the air like arrows, their steps swirling through the lifeless field, reaching the ends of the hunting grounds in seconds and vanishing deep into the woods. At first, Chuaning was going at a slower pace, trailing behind Nan Gongzi and Song Chutong, but eventually, with Song Chutong's screaming thrust back at his face time and again, his ears inevitably grew tired. Plus, he really could not stand the girls' coquettish whining, and so he sped up in spite of himself and surpassed them. As the cries of "Gongzi, slow down!" behind him grew distant, Chuaning slowly began to feel the joy of riding a Fey wolf. Such spiritual beasts truly were intelligent, and he needed but to move the tip of his finger slightly for Nao Bai Jin to understand what he desired and react instantaneously. No wonder Nan Gongzi valued these animals. The winter wind brushed past his face, but it didn't feel cold. Chuaning raised his head to gaze upon the spotted sunlight before his eyes, its rays constant, and with a swipe of the foot, he continued to surge forward like a torrent, rolling into the distance. He couldn't help but smile, feeling this run to be what they called ecstatic, so he urged Nao Bai Jin to dash on, and its wolf claws raised dust clouds behind as it tore through the heavily needled forest. Behind him, Moran followed closely whilst riding a black-clawed Fey wolf, and in that moment, an indescribable delight and relief filled his chest. He suddenly felt, but wasn't sure, that he seemed to have gained the power to be selfish, as if he could run anywhere and there would always be the sound of those footsteps, that person, echoing ceaselessly behind him, never to be separated. Chuaning and Moran reached Lake Ganqian almost at the same time. There, the azure waters glistened, clear as a mirror, and the water-type spiritual chi was overflowing. Thanks to nourishment from the spiritual flow, the flower and fruit trees by the lake shore were unaffected by the passing of seasons. In the midst of winter, the orange trees were still thick and flourishing, and behind every dark green leaf hid numerous golden fruits while the breeze wafted with the sweetness of oranges. After landing firmly on the ground, Chuaning scanned the surroundings. Well, this is certainly a beautifully endowed place that nurtures both nature and the living. Moran walked over with the black-clawed Fey wolf and said with a smile, "If Shizun likes it, then let's plant many fruit trees on Sichuan Peak too when we return. Grow them year-round with spiritual power and pick them whenever we feel cravings." Chuaning humped non-committally. He approached the lake, then raised his hand and summoned Tianwen. Moran sensed things going poorly and stopped him. "What are you doing?" "Catching fish." "Shizun is not thinking of blowing up the waters and wringing up the fish in the lake, are you?" What are you saying?" Chuaning shot him a glare. He threw the golden vine over the surface of the lake, then said tepidly towards the lake, "Are any of you tired of living? Hooked be the willing." Chuaning repeated those words 3 times, then withdrew Tianwen. Upon the shimmering golden leaves, there really were several fat fish looking like they had nothing left to live for and were bubbling at the mouths, watching the sky with rolled-back eyes. Chuaning looked them over and turned to Moran. Chuaning looked them over, then turned to Moran. He said to fish for groupers, right? Do you know what groupers look like? Chuaning thought maybe asking the question like this might be being around the bush a little, so he simply raised Tianwen up and showed Moran all the fish that had been fished up. "Are there any here?" "Why don't I catch the fish for Shizun instead?" Moran caught over a dozen fish and divided them between the Jenkun pouches hanging off the necks of both Fey wolves, so Chuaning released the several wanting-to-die fish he had caught earlier back in the waters. As he did so, he said impassively, "Life is short. Pray, my lords, endure it for a bit longer." Hearing such a thing, Moran only felt this man was both amusing and adorable. After he put in the last grouper, he turned around just in time to see Chuaning come back ashore from the freezing azure lake. The lake water shimmered behind him, soaking his white form in tenderness, obscuring him. A powerful desire suddenly grew within Moran. He wanted to stride over and pull Chuaning into his arms and kiss him. He wanted to caress him with utmost gentleness, but at the same time, crush him. He wanted to pull him into the orange trees and pin him against a tree, lift his legs and ravage him with immeasurable violence. As he watched Chuaning walk closer and closer, he suddenly came to a startling realization about just how conflicting yet powerful his desires were. What made him weak and what made him hard were all born of his meeting with this man. Love, oh love, was this not its very image? Hard and hot, it was the scorching fiery blade that dissected you. Gentle and soft, it was the vivacious tenderness that enveloped you. Really, that non-gongsi. Chuaning didn't notice the mixed emotions in Moran's eyes. He came by Moran's side to check and fix the Chenkun pouch around Nao Bai Jin's neck. Running so slow with a girl. He could be doing something else, you never know. Moran's mind was a little feverish as he stared at Chuaning's exposed pale neck wolfishly, as heat burned in his lower abdomen, and he murmured the response under his breath without thinking. Chuaning blinked. Doing what? ... Only then did Moran come back around. He felt he misspoke, so he cleared his throat and turned his head around. Nothing. However, Chuaning had wrapped his head around it by now, and his eyes widened before narrowing dangerously, appearing to be in slight anger. What are you thinking? Mount your horse. Time to go back. Moran moved his lips, wanting to say, It's mount the wolf, not the horse. But seeing Chuaning's gloomy face and the blushing tips of his ears, the words that came to his lips were swallowed once more. He gazed a little regretfully at Chuaning, who was seated skillfully on Nao Baijin, his bearing incomparably refined, his beauty unparalleled. He yearned bigotedly. He thought, if only Chuaning was his, that way he could F the man so weak he could ride neither horses nor wolves and could only come into his arms. Immediately, he felt both shocked and criminal for his thoughts, and subconsciously shook his head. It just so happened Chuaning spotted his action and asked, What? Why are you shaking your head? Was I wrong in my scolding? No, everything Shizun lectures is right. I'm the one who was thinking too much. But I wasn't thinking about Nan Gongsi and Song Chutong's crappy affair. The one I'm thinking about is you. Then Moran thought with a sigh, if only he could break Nao Baijin's legs. That way, Chuaning could have no wolf to ride, and perhaps would grant him the favor of mounting his black-clawed wolf. Moran, say no to animal cruelty, okay? Nao Baijin is innocent in this. You can't... Don't think about harming Nao Baijin just so Chuaning would ride with you. He so wanted to hug him again. Just like a man dying of thirst, longing for that sweet dew he'd once wasted. Stuck in such foolish fancies, Moran rode closely behind Chuaning the entire way. When they returned to Xiaoyue track field, they saw Song Chutong and Nan Gongsi were already waiting there. Song Chutong sat on the ground with her ankles exposed, skin as crystalline as jade, and there was blood on them. Turns out, halfway through the race, she had forgotten Nan Gongsi's instruction of tucking in her legs, so thorns had scratched her skin. While they were minor injuries, Nan Gongsi refused to neglect them, so he brought her back early to tend to her wounds. Moran glanced at her legs. They were considerably good-looking, but when compared to Chuaning's, hers still fell short. And there his past self had been, liking Song Chutong's legs, so blind. Now he thought everything about Chuaning was good. The man was good whether he was horizontal or vertical, and even that pair of frosty, unfeeling, harsh eyes were now pride and decorum to Moran. That was how Chuaning should be, so extremely good-looking to death. So good-looking that to be glared at or yelled at or rolled eyes at by him all made Moran brighten and burst with joy. Moran is a simp. I accept the loss. Nan Gongsi was cool about it and easily gave Chuaning the bracelet worth 1,000 gold. For Zhongshi. Chuaning looked the bracelet over. The 7-star spiritual stones are good for nourishing spiritual cores. I do need them. Many thanks. Miffed at hearing this, Moran grumbled out of the blue. I'll buy you better ones next time. What's that? Chuaning didn't hear clearly and turned to look at him. Seeing how Chuaning's phoenix eyes were so close that the pupils clearly reflected his face, the kind of distance where there was a me in you, the bitterness in his heart subsided somewhat. Moran smiled. I said, next time if I see ones that are better suited for Shizun, I'll buy them for Shizun. Okay. Chuaning's direct answer made Moran even happier. He very pettily looked at Nan Gongsi's direction. Nan Gongsi didn't care for something like this at all, but he had to compete with him anyway. He smugly wanted Nan Gongsi to know that Shizun would politely say thanks when he accepted your things. But look, with me, Shizun would drop the formalities. Chuaning added, remember to get a receipt from the owner and I'll pay you back. Moran, ... 10 freshwater groupers were taken out of the Chenkun pouch, and Nan Gongsi took them to a hunter's cabin by Xiaoyue track field. Outside the cabin was a hearth, caked in ashes. All the bowls and cutlery were there, but the wooden cabin seemed to be mottled and old, and when compared to the magnificent grass field, it didn't appear to be built in the same era. Chuaning's fingers brushed past the fence, then stopped when he came to an old rope tied onto it. That rope had been exposed to the weather for a long time, and had long since lost the splendor it once held. Nan Gongsi brought out seasoning from within the cabin, and when he saw Chuaning staring at the old rope, he smiled. I tied that there the year Zhongshi left. Now it's almost rotten through. Chuaning didn't respond, only letting out a soft sigh before seating at the small stool built from grinded-down wooden pegs. Back when he'd worked for Rufeng's sect, Nan Gongsi had been but a small child. He had often taken him to Shaoyue track field to run around, and this hunter's cabin was left from that time. The fire was quickly built, and the groupers were set to grill, skewered with fruit tree branches. Luxuriant fish fat sizzled and dripped from the crispy flesh, emitting the thick fragrance of meat. Nangongsa gave 6 fish to the Fey Wolves crouching by the wooden fence, then sprinkled salt over the remaining 4 and distributed them to the group. Song Chutong only took a few bites before passing the grilled fish to Nangongsa, who had already swiftly eaten an entire plump fish. "I can't eat anymore. Won't Gongsa help me finish?" Chuaning glanced over at them and saw Nangongsa take the fish, happily starting to eat his second one. He thought, this Song Chutong looks obedient and gentle, a considerate person, and not at all like the cheating woman in the rumors. As expected, rumors could not be believed. Just as he was deep in thought, a lotus leaf was handed to him. The fish meat on it was attentively cut, though the main thing was the bones had all been picked out. The white and tender meat was giving off steam and the delicious smell of the grill. Chuaning was a little confused and he looked over. Moran was just putting away the silver dagger he always carried, and he smiled. "Shizun, have this instead." "Where did you get the lotus leaf?" "I picked them earlier when I was catching fish." Moran handed him the fish meat. "Eat while it's hot. It won't taste as good when it's cooled." Chuaning accepted the lotus leaf, something rippling in his heart. "Thank you." It was true that he didn't enjoy picking out fish bones while eating, and the treated grouper meat melted in his mouth. Chuaning ate, piece by piece, not finding it overly greasy, and by the time he was done, the tea brewing over the fire was boiled too. Song Chutong rose to remove the iron kettle and poured a cup of tea for everyone. She offered the tea with both her hands. "Chu Zhongshi, please have some tea." Slender jade-like hands held a small white porcelain cup. Her arms were like that of the bright moon, and on her wrist was an astonishing dot of cinnabar. Chuaning suddenly recalled that back then, at the Xuanwan Pavilion auction, the pavilion master had said her wrist was dotted with the chastity cinnabar by the sage of Hanlin, so that must be what that was. Since the chastity cinnabar was untouched, then Song Chutong and Ye Wangshi's affair was even more nothing but nonsense. Having thought this, Chuaning finally relaxed. Nangongsa was a simple, uncalculating person, like a wild horse of the grasslands, like a lone wolf who moved alone. He possessed the natural fierceness of a spirited horse, and this wasn't a character Chuaning disliked, so he didn't want anyone unvirtuous by his side. Song Chutong's tea offering reached Moran. Moran accepted it but didn't drink it. He placed it down aside and smiled. "Miss Song, I have something I want to give you." Ooh, what does Moran want to give her? End of chapter. The mini theater is this chapter's ending's parody. The protagonist has something to give you. Moran, "Miss Song, I have a frying pan to give you." What? Moran, "Shue Meng Meng, I have a bunch of gays to give you." What is he implying? Wait, let me guess. I bet Moran wants to give Shue Meng Meng Mei Han Shue, right? I feel like from like minor spoilers that I've seen that Mei Han Shue and Shue Meng Meng have something going on. Moran, "Shi Mei Mei, I..." Sigh, never mind, it's nothing. He can't give you his love anymore. Moran, "Ye Gongzi, I have a wedding ceremony to give you." Yes, the one who should be marrying Nangongzi's Ye Wangshi. Yes, Moran. Moran, "Nangongzi, I have a pair of glasses to give you, because you seem to be very short-sighted and cannot see what is in front of you, you know? There is someone obviously in love with you who has been by your side since childhood, yet you are completely blind to it. Here, have some glasses." Moran, "Shizun, come to my room tonight. I have a project worth 100 million to give you." Moran, I seem to be forgetting something. Scratch his head. Can't remember. Whatever, forget it. Mei Han Shue, ... So Moran forgot to give something to Mei Han Shue, but to be fair, he's not that close with him. Plus, Mei Han Shue is the present that he's giving to Shue Meng Meng, so... Okay. So to recap chapter 156, Chuaning, Moran, Song Chutong, and Nangongsu all mount on their Fey Wolves and go for a race. However, Nangongsu soon pulls out of the race because his fiancé-to-be ends up injured, and so it's just Moran and Chuaning. And Chuaning has a very competitive spirit, so him and Moran go and decide to continue on with their mission to catch groupers. They catch a bunch, and they bring it back, and they win. So Nangongsu gives Chuaning the bracelet worth 1,000 gold, I think. Was it 1,000 gold? And then they go back to the cabin to grill the fish. Now, this is a cabin that Chuaning is very familiar with because he used to babysit Nan Gongzi and take him to this area all the time. So Chuaning is starting to get a little reminiscent of times, a little nostalgic. But it looks like Moran is going to break the tranquility because he wants to give Song Chutong something. Let's see what Moran wants to give her. Chapter 157. Shizun, that wedding night, truthfully Moran took out a thin bracelet as he spoke. The bracelet was strung together with mother of pearl and shihei crystals from Mount Zhurong, and it shone with brilliance, clearly an invaluable item. Your previous letter requested for a carp crystal, but unfortunately I used that rock to forge a sword for my little cousin. I didn't have any other wedding gifts prepared, so I bought this bracelet of water and fire. It should suit you well. This is too precious. Chutong can't possibly accept it. What reason is there to decline a wedding gift? Moran chuckled. Besides, the bracelet of water and fire can also suppress fire-type spiritual power, but it is only suitable for females to wear. In the future, if you stay by Nan Gongzi's side while wearing it, you'll be able to help moderate his spiritual flow somewhat, so it's fairly practical. Song Chutong gazed back at Nan Gongzi, and only after she got a nod of approval, did she then accept the bracelet with both hands. She bowed in respect and said gently, "Many thanks, Mo Zhongshi." So Moran gave her a bracelet with similar properties as the bracelet that she wanted. However, only females can wear it, so Nan Gongzi can't wear it himself. Why is Moran giving it to her? Then isn't he kind of like trying to push them together more? Moran, what are you thinking? What's going on in that noggin of yours? The four drank tea and sat there chatting for a while. Chuaning was worried about Nan Gongzi's wedding, and so he told him to be more mindful over the next few days to ensure all details of the ceremony were taken care of, so that no mishaps would happen at the last minute. Nan Gongzi finished his tea in a couple of gulps and started to idly toss his empty cup in the air. He then laughed. No need to worry, Zhongshi. I go over every night to check up on things. I'm not the same kid I was before anymore. I know what to pay attention to. See? Yesterday, I discovered that Chutong's wedding gown was missing a pearl, so I immediately went and got that sorted out. As he spoke of the wedding ceremony, some surprising shyness colored his usually unbridled expression. He glanced at Song Chutong and smiled. When the time comes, Chutong must look beautiful. As these words dropped into the ears of Song Chutong's previous life's husband, Moran absent-mindedly poured himself another cup of tea. Of course he knew Song Chutong was an ethereal beauty, that she possessed unparalleled grace, but so what? That year, upon Shu Ying Peak, at the heaven worship ceremony, Ta Xianjun had married the first empress of the cultivation world. However, though the phoenix candles had burned brightly through the night of the grand wedding, he'd never set foot into the bridal chamber. That night, he drunk too much. The air in the room had been thick with the haze of red candles, the low-hanging curtains befuddling, and he'd lifted the bride's blushing, shy face to gaze upon it. Before grand rituals in life, it was often easy for people to marvel at the squandering of time and the vicissitudes of life, and not even Ta Xianjun was an exception. He had suddenly felt like it was unreal. It'd been as if his eyes had seen past the enchanting beauty and landed instead into a dreadful blizzard of many years past. That time, in underclothes that barely covered him from the frigid winds. That time, when he'd been starving and thirsty on the brink of death and had won a stranger's pity, had licked gruel from that person's hand. That time, when he'd been full of trepidation upon his first arrival at Sisheng Peak. That time when he picked haitang blossoms beneath the moonlight, standing on tiptoe. That time when he knelt before Chuaning to receive lashings of the willow vine. It had never crossed his mind that he would one day trample all immortals and rule the world. "Husband, what is on your mind?" Her red lips were delicately parted, her gaze fixed on him, and even the breath she exhaled was extravagant with sweetness, just like his imminent status of today. It seemed as if he had gotten everything: beautiful woman, status, power. What was there left to be dissatisfied over? He couldn't think of anything dissatisfying, yet he'd felt incredibly hollow, like he was standing at the frozen summit, surrounded by indistinct bowed head after bowed head. As he crossed through these flattering and fawning faces, they'd sing him praises, compliment him, kneel to receive him, curry for his favor, one after the other, every single one exactly the same. he heard someone calling him in the most sweet and charming way. Her voice sweet, her voice soft and delicate like the petals of a peony. Husband! Husband! He felt disgusted, revolted. He wanted to escape from this tide-like horde of supporters, but this overly sweet voice was like syrup, trapping him. He shoved Song Shutong away. Unable to bear the rough handling, the charming new bride fell over atop the red dragon and phoenix bed of the blood-red bridal chamber, the adornments on her head trembling with her fall, her dangling accessories rustling. Amidst the illusion of resplendence, Moran felt like everything was too contoured, too surreal, that the golden shimmering light was ghost fire, and those vibrantly red candles were bloody tears. He felt so disgusted, but he didn't know who he was disgusted with, Song Shutong, or himself who had become thus. He forced the door open and rushed away. In the previous life, few had known that on Ta Xianjun's grand wedding night, the Empress Song Shutong had been left neglected, while Moran, decked in lavish gold and red, had pushed open the door to the Red Lotus Pavilion. He'd walked in, and soon after, the candle lights of the pavilion had been extinguished. Song Shutong's new husband had spent an entire night there. It wasn't until dusk the next day, when Shremung charged up Sisheng Peak to cause havoc, that Moran finally lazily opened the door, fixed his disheveled robes and crown, and strolled to the front palace with a face full of satiated lust. However, outsiders were completely ignorant of what had transpired at the Red Lotus Pavilion that night. Oh, so Moran spent his wedding night with Qiwaning instead of Song Shutong. Of course, he knew who he really wanted to be with, even back then. After bidding farewell to Nan Gongsi and Song Shutong, Qiwaning and Moran returned together to the courtyard they were staying at. Qiwaning suddenly asked casually, when Nan Gongsi was calling Song Shutong beautiful earlier, "What were you doing spacing out and staring at her?" "I was imagining what she looked like in her wedding gown," Moran replied. A rush of jealousy flared in Qiwaning, and he waved his sleeve, expression frigid. "Do not ponder over what is improper. What is there for you to be concerned about over someone else's fiancé?" Moran chuckled. "Who said I'm concerned about her? I was just thinking what she looked like in the wedding gown, and it wouldn't be anything extraordinary. Her looks would be nothing compared to Shizun's. ... He was originally just about to burst out in anger, but unexpectedly had been caught off guard with a little wolfhound licking his hand. Qiwaning paled and flushed in turn, unable to come up with the right response for the longest time. In the end, he waved his sleeve once more and said, "There is no need to mention that absurd incident with the ghost mistress's illusion ever again." Moran sighed inwardly. "It wasn't that I wanted to mention it, you were the one who asked. I didn't want to lie to you, but I got yelled at anyway for complimenting your good looks." "But even when you yell at me, it feels incredibly sweet. Remembering how I once lost you, having you scold me so spiritedly for the rest of my life would only feel like being soaked in a candy jar, Qiwaning. What can I do? I can't stop myself from desiring you." The days passed rapidly, and soon it was only one more day before Nan Gongsi's grand wedding. Guests from all over the world had come and filled Rufeng sect, whether they were young sect leaders of a major sect, or rogue cultivators from the Jianghu, or wealthy great merchants. Everyone who had not already come gathered at the main city on this day, creating a scene of encapsulating splendor. Horse carriages weaved through the streets as an endless stream of lavishly dressed men and women arrived, the silk and jewelry adorning their bodies like a reflection of the Milky Way upon the streets of Rufeng sect, like stars streaming across the sky. Shremung was dragged by his father the entire way to greet female cultivators of similar age. "Long time no see, Wang Xianjun. What a pleasure. Ayya, isn't this Shao Mantou? Look how you've grown, so beautiful and intelligent. Come, Shremung, come say hi to your Uncle Wang." Shremung grudgingly shuffled over. "Hi, Wang Dabo." Shui Jiangyang slapped him up the back of his head and said through a smile and gritted teeth, "It's Wang Bobo, not Wang Dabo." "Haha, all the same. The darling of the heavens really is so handsome. He looks like you, Lao Shui. What good fortune." Eventually, Shuemeng was pushed to go for a stroll in the gardens with Shao Mantou. Shao Mantou was 16 this year, a sweet age, but she appeared somewhat cold. After walking side by side with Shuemeng for a bit, she said, "Shui Gongzi must know why our parents pushed us to come out together." Let me make this clear. Taking a walk is fine, but I'm really not into Shui Gongzi's type, so you can forget about anything else happening. Huh? Shocked, Shuemeng abruptly stopped. With a stormy face, he waited for Shao Mantou to continue. That little wildfire raised her chin and quite haughtily and demonstratively stared at Shuemeng with narrowed eyes, her voice cool. My heart is taken, and so even if you fancy me... Are you crazy? Shuemeng lost it. Me? He pointed at himself, horrifically stunned. Fancy you? Why did you drag me to the small remote... Why did you drag me to the small remote path then? Don't you have ulterior motives? Why don't you say instead it's your brain that has holes? Shuemeng's violent temper flared instantly, and in spitting anger, eyes just about shooting flames, he repeated, I like you? I like you? Why are you saying you like me so many times, you perv? Xiaomantou had a staunch character. She stomped her foot, looked up, and slapped Shuemeng's face soundly. She bee-slapped him! Oh my gosh! Shuemeng was already dizzy with anger, but now, receiving a slap from a lovely little hand for no reason, he was going to spit blood. If it hadn't been for Madame Wang teaching him to yield courteously towards women, he probably would have already pinned Xiaomantou down on the ground and beaten her to a pulp. He said, ugh, damn, because my mom raised me so that I cannot slap women, so I'll let you off, Xiaomantou, but you better not get on my bad side again, okay? How dare you slap me? Just then, from the distance came a man with light-colored eyes and a nose with a high bridge. The moment Xiaomantou saw him, she froze. Then, in an instant, her eyes filled with tears, and in a coquettish voice, she called out, Mei Gongzi, and dashed straight for that man. Oh dear, here comes Mei Hanshui, the womanizer. The one who'd come was indeed Mei Hanshui. He'd never imagined he'd bump into others by taking such a small remote path, and so he was obviously stunned for a moment. However, the moment he saw Xiaomantou running towards him, he raised his hand, formed a barrier from thin air, and dropped it between them with a bang, blocking her off. Oh! Caught off guard, that girl crashed right into the barrier that was coursing with lightning power, and fell to the ground with a sharp cry. It didn't appear Mei Hanshui was going to help her to her feet. He only looked down and glanced over her before saying with a frown, You've got the wrong person, miss. What do you mean? How could I be wrong? That year, you gave me a golden perfume pouch. You said I was unforgettable from the first glance, and that you would come ask for my hand in marriage when I turned 18. Have you forgotten? Mei Hanshui, ... Mei Gongzi. You've really gotten the wrong person. Mei Hanshui didn't explain any further. He shook his head and walked by the tearful girl, leaving her with only these words. Shuemeng watched this scene, feeling both infuriated and mollified. Infuriated because Mei Hanshui, this promiscuous player, was truly heartless, pretending to be strangers once his pants were back on. So fickle and aloof, no wonder he only dared walk small remote paths in such circumstances. Mollified because he never thought that the one Xiaomantou loved would be this Mei Hanshui guy. Mei Hanshui was like his name, unfaithful and cold. Apparently his attitude before and after fooling with a woman was completely different. Xiaomantou must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes worth for having fallen in love with him. Mei Hanshui approached him and squinted his light glaze-like eyes, casting him a sidelong glance. What are you looking at? Mei Hanshui thought. How dare you look at me like that? Your playboy name is infamous, but my mighty name once shook the world. I won't lose in dominance. And so he proudly looked up, swept a look at Mei Hanshui from the corners of his eyes like an idiot, ready to scornfully hump in dignity when the two crossed paths. Why is your face swollen? Unexpectedly, Mei Hanshui stopped halfway, pausing in his steps to stand in front of him, staring at him apathetically from inches away. A fairly unique kind of swelling, too. Shuemeng's anger was stumped, but he couldn't stop himself in time and humped arrogantly. Mei Hanshui, ... Shuemeng's face reddened at a rapid pace, and he jerked his head away, his murderous aura brimming. None of your business! I accidentally fell when I was walking! Then you better watch where you're going in the future, Mei Hanshui said calmly. It's not easy to get hurt like this in a fall. He left as soon as he finished talking, leaving Shuemeng standing there stunned for a moment before he stomped his feet in rage. Mei Hanshui, you good-for-nothing cur! Just you wait! We're not finished! Yeah, you're not finished! Feeling awfully aggrieved, Shuemeng ran out of the garden with red eyes, and in his haste, ran into the arms of someone without warning. Outraged, Shuemeng yelled, Who the hell? Do you not use your eyes when walking? He looked up, only to see a tall and poised man dressed in blue. his robes embroidered in a palya pattern with gold thread, and a blue jaded crown of guyue fastened on his head. His eyelashes, long and soft and curtain-like, lowered before he looked up, revealing a gaze like the haze of Jiangnan's misty rain, and a truly bewitching face. The man pushed Xuemeng away before fixing his clothes, not appearing to be in a good mood either. His long fingers straightened the wrinkles of his lapels inch by inch. When Xuemeng noticed the silver ring on his finger, marked with the pattern of a Xuan Wu's back, he stopped for a moment, then said with a jolt, "Jiangxi?" Gu Yueye's sect leader, the richest man in the world, Jiangxi. This man was about the same age as Shui Zhengyang, but his cultivation method was different, and Jiangxi's appearance had stopped aging in his 20s. This man was immensely wealthy and extremely beautiful, truly blessed, a clear favorite of the heavens. During the Spirit Mountain Conference, Jiangxi had been the only one of the 10 great sect leaders who'd been absent, and Xuemeng had wondered back then what that absent guy looked like. Now that he'd seen the man for himself, he was thoroughly shaken by the man's affluence and refined taste, and he stared, transfixed. Jiangxi, however, was gloomy and irritated. "Is the name of a sect leader one that can be called by the likes of you?" Laughable. When Xuemeng heard this, he felt even more humiliated than when he'd spoken to Meihan Shui earlier, and he was instantly outraged. "What? So you're old now and no one's allowed to say your name? I have to tag a sect leader Xianjun in there too, do I? Not even Nangung Liu puts on this many ears." "Such disrespect," Jiangxi said darkly. "Whose disciple are you?" "Why do I gotta answer your question? Who do you think you are? Those monkeys at Guyue all heed your call, and I gotta respect that too, do I? Well, I won't tell you. I think you're nothing but a Meng'er." The sudden gentle voice immediately shut Xuemeng up, and his eyes moved past Jiangxi. Madame Wang had come without their notice, and she'd probably heard Xuemeng's offensive words just now, which was why she appeared pale and somewhat anxious. She hurried to stop him. "Meng'er, stop now! Come over here, back to Mum's side." Xuemeng shot another angry glare at Jiangxi, then shook his hands out and walked to Madame Wang. He respectfully bowed his head. "Mum." Jiangxi stood there for a while, then slowly turned around as well. He narrowed his eyes, and those eyes that were so obviously born beautiful shone with a malicious light. He watched the mother-child pair standing by the white walls and black-tiled roofs from the distance, and said coolly through clenched teeth, "Oh, this must be the darling of the heavens, the good son of Shui Zhengyang, Xuemeng." Madame Wang, ... Jiangxi's lashes trembled briefly, then he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his gaze was already filled with mockery. As expected of Shui Zhengyang's seed, what an excellent upbringing. "I won't allow you to insult my dad!" "Meng'er!" Madame Wang immediately stopped him and pulled him behind her. Then, with a blanched face, she curtsied respectfully at Jiangxi. "My son, Xuemeng, he is spoiled. Please do not take offense, Sect Leader Jiang." "Oh-ho, Sect Leader Jiang." Jiangxi was like a venomous snake, slowly savoring those 3 words on his lush lips before swallowing them slowly. "It's fine. Half of the blood in him is Shijia's anyhow, so in terms of seniority, I could recognize him as a god-nephew." "Who wants to be your god-nephew? Why don't you take a look at your ugly-ass face first? Get out of here!" "Meng'er!" Jiangxi sneered. His gaze rested on Xuemeng briefly before languidly moving to Madame Wang, who dropped her gaze immediately. "Please stop this jest. Oh, please stop this jest, sect leader. This married one is no longer a disciple of Guyue, so how could I possibly discuss seniority with the sect leader?" "Fine." Jiangxi nodded and replied coldly. "Good. Excellent. Today I had the chance to meet an old friend and the son of an old friend, and it's truly opened my eyes. Who knows how such a filthy place like Sichuan Peak nurtures people? That a perfectly fine white magnolia can cover itself with dirt." Ooh, so Jiangxi and Madame Wang have some beef with each other from the past. I wonder what that's about. He seems to really dislike Shui Zhengyang as well. Jiangxi, effing say that again. I'll rip your mouth off. Sorry, I keep stumbling over my words. I'll rip your mouth off. When Xuemeng heard the man insult his mother right to his face, his blood instantly surged to his head, and he was ready to rush the man with abandon. Not even Madame Wang could hold him back. Just as the situation was going to get out of control, there was a sudden loud sound in the sky. A resplendent firework exploded with a boom. The gongs drummed. and the master of ceremony of the Rufeng sect used a sound amplification spell to simultaneously spread the news across all 72 cities. The welcoming reception will take place at Yu time, within Shile Tall. Every esteemed guest is invited to attend. Jiangshi gave Shuemeng a cold look, then shook his sleeves out and turned, leaving with a glower. Mini Theater, a certain post on the Sisheng Peak forum, OP Anonymous, requesting Red Lotus Pavilion AIV, HD, uncensored and uncut, thanks in advance. Reply 1, gentleman tender like the water. Love to but can't, steals first post. Reply 2, the madam is extremely beautiful. What's that, an art film? Reply 3, remove Yu Hung Elder's roof. Replying upstairs is an action movie, a man beating another man, pinning each other down on the ground to fight, riding on each other's bodies to fight, pushing each other against the wall to fight, opening the legs to violently fight. There's all sorts of combat positions, both strong male leads. The action sequences are extremely exciting. I've seen it and learned a lot. Reply 4, no one's stronger than me. What? What's that got to do with Red Lotus Pavilion? Is it the collector's edition of Yu Hung Elder's Combat? I want one too! Raise his hand. Reply 5, this venerable one tramples you all. Upstairs should forget about it. You'll want to die after watching it. Reply 6, admin, Yu Hung Elder. This post violated the rules and will be removed. All future replies will be deleted. Okay, so to recap chapter 157. Wait, I just got a brain fart right now. Okay. To recap chapter 157, they're all sitting around the campfire and enjoying some fish, and Maran gives Song Tu Tong a bracelet, which has fire properties, so it should also help with non-gongsa's cultivation. However, it can only be worn by females, so non-gongsa can't use it, but that would mean that Song Tu Tong would have to wear it and be by his side all the time. So I don't know what Maran is doing that. Why would he give her that present? Because then that would give them a reason to be together even longer. Maran, what? I'm pretty sure you have a plan, right? So why would you give her that present? But yeah, so then they all go their separate ways, and then we jump over to see what Shuemeng is doing. He has gotten roped into a little bit of a blind date by his father. He's walking with this female cultivator called Xiao Mantou, and she is being really cold to him. She told him straight to his face she's not interested because there's someone in her heart already. But she says it in a very cold and outright way that offends Shuemeng. So Shuemeng gets offended, saying, I don't like you. Why would you get that impression? I'm just here because my father made me come here. And she ends up slapping him. Now, I think that's really uncalled for. She slapped him across the face, so poor Shuemeng is holding it in. And then suddenly Meihan Shui appears, and Xiao Mantou's face does a completely 180. She's like, Gongsa, I've been waiting for you. And she runs over to him, but Meihan Shui is still acting weird and not like his womanizing self. He puts up a barrier and knocks her over, and then walks right past her, saying, you got the wrong dude. I don't know who you are. And now Shuemeng is like, this dude is a terrible freaking womanizer. How dare he sleep with her and then forget all about her? What scum? So he's fuming, and he gets himself back up and is walking and bumps into the sect leader of Gu Yueye, the elusive Jiangshi, who normally doesn't attend functions like this. So he's really surprised, but he was gonna be really polite, or he was planning to, but Jiangshi right away was like, ugh, disgusting, how improper. So again, Shuemeng, who has a lot of pride, gets offended again and starts yelling at Jiangshi, but his mom, Madame Wang, comes in and gets really scared. She gets really scared to interact with Jiangshi and pulls her son behind her. Now, Madame Wang used to be a disciple at Gu Yueye, and so she personally knows Jiangshi. Now, I wonder if they have a history with each other. Jiangshi seems to have a big disdain for Shui Zhenyang and Sisheng Peak. He even, low-key offended, well, actually, he high-key offended Madame Wang, saying that she's a magnolia that's been covered in dirt because she went and married into Sisheng Peak. So, I wonder, does Jiangshi dislike her, or did maybe he have a crush on her and was mad when she got married and left Gu Yueye? It could be either, but either way, he was really, really mean and rude towards Madame Wang and Shuemeng and Sisheng Peak. So Shuemeng is going to remember this. Shueman will remember the rudeness that he showed towards his family and his sect. But I wonder why they're just showing him now. Jiangxi is just coming into the story now. We haven't seen him before. I wonder how he's gonna play into things. Also, we're still waiting for the fake Gochen. Is Mei Han Shui or Song Chutong or Jiangxi somehow related to the fake Gochen? We're gonna have to keep reading to find out. But that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's read-along, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!